Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the counselor's office. I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor, and we are going to check out a video by the man, the myth, the legend, the meme 20.7? What was I don't remember. Literally, we are going to watch Datto and his video for the weekly dungeon raid and Nightfall Rotators Need to Die.
It is time.
There we go. It is time.
It's been time, but it has never been more time.
Is it time to explain why you don't have time to explain? I'm sorry, that's a stupid reference.
Time for the weekly rotator to die. And in its place, nothing.
That's the video right there. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the video. Absolutely needs to die. Who thought that we need things on rotations? Who? Let me, I'm sounding like an owl. Who? Ric Flair over here. Who thought it would be a good idea to put almost every activity, like main end game activity, on a rotation? I don't know a single game that does that. That if you want to play some kind of end game content, you can just do that. Let's continue.
Instead, we just have every raid, every dungeon, everything farmable whenever you want. Why?
Who does that hurt?
Personally, I'm tired of, number one, trying to keep track, and number two, put out content on some of these weapons.
Uh-oh. There are going to be people who are flaring him that are absolutely just going to tear him a new one for this. But let's be honest. Yes, content creators want to review guns. I personally don't, because one, I don't want to be a Destiny 2 only content creator. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to farm whatever we want. If I want to, like the prophecy, I got on last week and I grind the prophecy for the first time in like years. But I grinded to a point that I wasn't enjoying any of it, because I knew that I would have to wait 6 weeks.
The content point is my main thing, which I know is like, oh, wow, content creator wants a thing. But like, okay, just hear me out. Okay?
He's not wrong.
I know it's pretty easy.
Makes no sense paying for a dungeon key and basically getting one opportunity a month to get the good loot. That's actually a good free point that you make, Moon. Yeah, if you just bought the dungeon, like if you're a new player and you're like, okay, I've got all this stuff that I can buy in the store, so I buy these dungeons, I can't farm any of the old stuff unless it's on rotation. That's really stupid. I don't think anyone really thought about that from a new player perspective, especially if you're behind and you want to get all the stuff. You're literally bottle capped, especially if you don't buy any dungeons. What if the prophecy's free? What if you don't want to buy any other dungeons? You are forced as a new player to have to either play every week and hope you get one singular drop from every character, and you get the weapon and you get the role you want, or you have to wait 6 weeks to be able to have a chance to farm it. So that is a great point for new players. Again, the new player experience is god-awful in this game.
Easy to deduce whether or not most weapons are gonna be good or not just from the perk rolls, at least in PvE, and at least 95% of the time. But it still takes me multiple days.
He's going on about his thing, but I want to point out, most people can look at perks. Like I can look at a perk or a gun and know, oh, this is going to be really nasty. But there are some of those surprising rolls that you never think about, that these creators, their job is to experiment. I don't want to experiment on different perks. I just want to I want to use my time wisely, especially even if I'm playing a game a lot, like hundreds of hours. I want to use it on what's beneficial and fun to me. So I'm okay with these people who get paid to do it, to do all the experimentations. But if they can't do like videos to find out what role is good, then me as someone who's just playing it for fun, if it's something that, like obviously if it's a Eyes of Luna, there you go. You want a god roll, Eyes of Luna. Now you can only get like a chance of getting it to drop, and then you wait 6 weeks. But what in PvP that there's a god roll that's not been discovered yet? Well, you won't know until 6 weeks. And you got to hope that you're not busy on that week. What if you're on vacation the 1 week because you thought you already got the roll, but someone comes out and this is changing the meta, this new role that people just found out? Well, you have to wait another 6 weeks to get it. Like it impacts everyone. And we can all hate on the content creators. Again, I'm the first one to say it's their job. You know, I'm first one to say boo-hoo on a lot of things. But at the same time, if they do all the homework for us, we don't have to waste the time doing homework. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay letting someone else do the homework for me so I can just reap the benefits. Listen, don't tell me in high school you didn't have one class where you peeked or you took answers from a friend because you couldn't be bothered. I don't want to hear it. Just saying.
Days of farming to try to get the rolls I want to take a look at and review. And by the time I can do all of my grinding and testing in various bits of content, the thing that the weapon drops from has rotated out of the cycle.
Ooh.
Prophecy, yep. For example, 6 different guns to farm for. 2 of the encounters, pretty easy to farm. And then you got the cube room, which is much more obnoxious to farm. And
I got the cube down pretty fast. If you have a good team and you just like, you know who's doing the dunking, everyone just steams. Like, it's not that bad. I just want to put my piece in there. Also, on the screen, let's go ahead and put it. We have right here. Oh, I don't like this, but we'll kind of scroll up. Students with exams, people who work. I don't know why they're gatekeeping endgame like that. I don't know either. I don't like, it's very obvious this is corporate. It's very corporate. And I don't know, I don't know, like the thought process is maybe, oh, if we keep them around long enough, we can, you know, make them play the game more. I'll be honest. I've not played nearly as much as I did last week to grind in that short amount of time. And then I was like, peace. I was out.
And of course, that's where the big ticket PvE item can drop from. Although the other encounters have some decent stuff as well. I'm farming. And unless literally all I do is farm on stream for hours, which just isn't really that exciting, then by the time I get all the weapons...
And let me tell you, as someone who's farmed on screen and off screen, it doesn't get funner. It really doesn't get funner.
And start to do review work for them, the dungeon has left the farming rotation and won't come back for 6 weeks. So it's like, yeah, I can tell you about these weapons, but unless you already farmed the dungeon as well, you have to wait a minimum of a month and a half to try to get whatever I'm talking about.
Which is really stupid.
You happen to get really lucky on a clear, which means you're definitely not going to care until 6 weeks later.
No.
So yeah, I could wait 6 weeks.
And here's another thing. It's also gatekeeping people, like say the new SMG. Let's use the adjudicator. I'm honestly going to say it wrong. Say that thing is apparently hot with Onslaught. I've got a couple rolls, but maybe you didn't get the God roll. Well, now you have to wait a month and a half to go against people in like trials or PvP with this roll. It feels bad. Whereas I think how comp is done, you can farm for any role that's in the pool, right? So you're not locked out. If someone has a God roll rose, well, now you can also get a God roll rose. You have to work for it, but you can still do it. Whereas in PvE content, you just tough luck. I see you in six weeks. Sucks to be you, kid. You don't get to participate in the fun. Okay.
Weeks to drop the video, but then by then, the amount of people who actually care about these drops, well, drops dramatically. Although people tuned in for my Rasaraga review, so what do I know? So while it's annoying,
that's the world drop auto, I believe.
It is also super annoying as a player to have to wait 6 weeks if I didn't happen to farm some god roll
absolutely
at the time. If something absolutely pops off, then that's 6 weeks of sitting around waiting for the thing to come back. You will have 7 weeks.
Or you just don't care anymore. Let's be honest. even if a gun really isn't that good, it's the newness factor. People want to play new guns for the newness factor, and then they enjoy it. And then if it's really not like meta, it falls off when we go back to the old stuff. Most people kind of follow the group mentality of, oh, this gun isn't good anymore, I'm not going to waste my time with it. And so it really just kills it off. Whereas if it's a gun you already have, you might pull it out to play with it and have some fun with it once in a while. But if it's a gun that you know isn't meta, it was hot at first, but people moved on, you're like, well, I'm going to spend my time elsewhere. And so I'm not going to come back to the prophecy for any of those guns if for some reason they aren't popping the crap off, which I doubt that's the case. I'm pretty sure most of that stuff is a hot, ticket item.
Out of the year on average at the most to try to farm a thing. God forbid you're not around during that specific week. Now you're out an entire season of not even having the privilege of getting armor drops instead of the weapon that you're trying to farm. Now you're out an entire season of a content creator telling you that, no, this is definitely the God roll PvP pulse rifle of a lifetime, and if you don't get it, you will literally die in every 1v1. Only slight exaggeration on that one.
I love him for this because that is such like shade toward the PvP community, because it is so true. If you click on a video review, every title has something like God tier and it's some random garbage weapon. Like, okay, you do have to be careful on those reviews. You do have to use common sense because, like I said, it's nice to get those hidden gems, but sometimes it's hidden stinkers that people try to sell you as gems.
I realize that the concept behind the featured raid or dungeon of the week is to try to get people to log in and make sure that there's something new, and I'm using that word very loosely, new, to go experience every week. But that was cute when there was like 3 things. There are now 7 raids and 7 dungeons of the rotation.
And it wasn't really, like he says, new quotations. And he's absolutely right, because you know how you make something new every week? You put something new in the game. Or if they were really worried, and I'm be honest, if they were really worried, they could release new weapons in waves. So let's say they didn't just outright reset the whole table of prophecy. Say you could farm back to back all as much as you want prophecy, but the first encounter for just the first week, it will only have the new perk refreshes. So you can farm the first encounter, get the new weapons, but then if you want to try to get up on the old stuff, you can do the old stuff. And then maybe a week or 2 weeks later, you refresh the second encounter, and then you can farm that. And then you see what's happening there. You're not gatekeeping loot. You are doing slow rollouts of new loot. It's much smarter. And who's it hurting? The people who want the new stuff, you can absolutely get that new stuff. The people who want to try to get some of the old stuff before it rolls out, and they're like, oh, I've FOMO, fear of missing out. Well, guess what? You've got that slow rollout to try to catch up and get all that schloot. And I know there's going to be arguments that people are like, well, this has been out for years, Mr. Gaming Counselor. Listen, people have lives. People maybe they're coming back from Destiny and they realize, oh, crap, I never got this. And now suddenly it's disappearing. Well, now you have a slow rollout of the prophecy. You know the first encounter is going to have all the new stuff, but you want to focus the end to try to get the God tier darkest below or whatever, and you can target farm that. I'm 100% with Datto on this. There is a zero benefit to the consumer or even new players, as Moon has pointed out. Thank you, Moon, for being in the chat. Moon pointing out, you've got students or people. Maybe it's not students. I have a job. I'm not a student anymore. I have a job. I play games more than like normal people with jobs. I don't work necessarily a 9 to 5. I'm like full-time gamer, full-time, counselor. But that's how I live my life. Other people can't do that. They have wives and or husbands and kids or dogs. I mean, I have a cat, but she does her thing. The point is, gatekeeping endgame counters make zero sense. I don't know any other game that gatekeeps content. Like Warframe. I love Warframe. Yes, there's some content that is gatekept, like rotation-wise, like weapons. There are certain things you can do, but it's on a weekly rotation, but it's the loot that's being on rotation. It's not the ability to do the content, which is the problem with Destiny 2, is that if you want to do the game, you have to wait on rotations, which is so freaking stupid. It makes no sense. I've never played a game that doesn't let you. And yes. Can you do weeklies? Can you do weeklies? Oh, Mr. Gaming Counselor, you just do your weekly run on all 3 characters. What if people don't have 3 characters? What if people don't have time to do 3 characters? I do because, well, I'm a sweaty nerd. I'm a sweaty nerd who's played over almost 9,000 hours of Destiny. I can absolutely do that. But what if you have a life? You have a wife and kids. You can only manage 1 character. Well, guess what? You get 1 chance a week to go through the dungeon and hope for the best. We got, the system also hurts solo players a lot, especially in today's environment where everyone's on LFG is asking for meta loadouts. And you're right. You know, you're absolutely right, Moon. And I'm gonna be honest, especially day ones where people want nothing but warlocks, like Wells. But I'll be honest with y'all. You can do day ones of like any class, and hunters are really slept on because they do some of the most DPS with their supers. Just putting it out there. Like, actually, I bake Crota, but that's besides the point. You make an exceptional point that, yeah, there's a lot of people who want to play solo, but they try to do Fire Team Fighter, and then they immediately get kicked because they're using Thunderlord. Well, I'm sorry. They're fresh. They're new. Bungie hasn't really opened the floodgates for people to farm content like dungeons. Like, it makes no sense. From a new player's perspective, from a veteran, like, this is hurting everyone. As a veteran, I want to farm the prophecy and get the good. As a new player, you don't have a lot of time, and maybe you have a day to farm. Well, if you don't get what you need in that day's time, sorry. See you in 6 weeks. It makes no sense. So absolutely, I agree with what Datto's saying so far. And thank you, Moon, for throwing that out there, because it's nice to hear different perspective besides my own.
It's no longer cute. It's no longer novel.
It's never been cute.
I think most people would say it never really was that novel to begin with, but I digress. Ain't no one getting hyped at the idea of the raid rotator moving from one raid to another.
Here's the deal. Like Warframe, can you farm for anything? Absolutely. Diablo 4, there's uniques. There's their version of exotics. Can you farm for it? Absolutely. Ubers, like the big baddies, what would we consider like raid exotics? That's what they have as Ubers in Diablo 4. But can you farm that and continue to farm that regardless of how many times you do an encounter? Absolutely. Like Duriel is their big raid boss. I mean, it's not, but just for the comparison to Destiny, or call it a raid boss. It's not, but the dungeon boss. But the point is, most games don't shut you out where you can farm and continue to farm to your heart's content for that special thing, that unique thing, because good games know that players want to play at their own pace. They want to chase the items that they want to chase. If I'm a sweaty nerd and I want to get the best stuff within a week, let me be a sweaty nerd. And if I'm a filthy casual, no offense, I'm just going to throw out the terms that people use to insult each other, right? If I want to be a filthy casual, let me be a filthy casual. Let me be able to farm at my own pace. Again, why are we gatekeeping activities? I feel like if you let people play how they want to play a game, they're going to want to play it. It's like playing I'm playing Final Fantasy Rebirth, and it's like playing the game, and then I get to a new location, and they tell me, sorry, you have to wait 6 weeks to be able to move on with the story. You want to move forward? Sorry. You can't. You can't. 6 weeks. You know how many people will be freaking triggered? Absolutely. Because I play the game for obviously the gameplay, but also story. That's the main thing for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is its story. And Destiny, the main thing about its thing is loot. And if I can't get that, why should I play?
Anything, it's relief that they can finally farm the one thing that they're missing to complete their weapon checklist or do whatever they want to do. Also,
so titles, you want to farm for titles, triumphs, whatever it is, all that plays a part. Oh, what do we got here? Honestly, I have no idea, but have they ever addressed this? Why is it this way? No, they never addressed it. No, it actually, if I remember correctly, I thought it used to be worse than this. I believe we didn't even have, in fact, I do remember several years ago, we didn't even have rotators. It was just, you couldn't farm it. You had a raid, you did the raid, you couldn't farm it. Obviously, yes, that was them old days where you didn't do it, but we're in the modern days. Most games let you farm for whatever. Again, like, there's no reason we had to gatekeep loot in a looter shooter.
We're 3 months out from the final expansion. Surely at this point, we can give in to this idea that if you let players farm everything they want immediately, that they're not going to log back in for XYZ whatever.
Let's be honest. If they weren't going to log back in, they're still not going to log in, even if you lock the loot. Let me say that again for the people in the back. If they weren't going to log in, they're still not going to log in if you lock content away from people. People who want to play are going to be here.
We're at the lowest player counts of probably all time in Destiny 2. I'm not going to claim Destiny 1 because I don't think we really knew population numbers back then. Lowest player counts ever. We're not...
Well, I mean, population count from... You can't even really consider Destiny 1 because Destiny 1 was console only. There was no PC, which I would argue that the biggest part of the Destiny community is PC. Again, I don't have facts, I don't have data, but most people who play this game do so on PC. Unless it's on Game Pass, then you could say Game Pass.
Skyrocketing back up to 100,000 concurrents just because Last Wish rotated
Woo!
back into the game. The least Bungie could do at this moment in time is to let the people actually playing the game just farm the stuff that they want to farm at any time.
Absolutely.
I'll even give you a 2-week rotator. 3 is kind of pushing it. Make it
2 week. There you go.
Half raids like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that's for week 1, and then 5, 6, 7 is week 2, and you go back and forth. Make it.
Or I'll do you one better. Rotate raids and dungeons. All right, this week all raids are farmable. Next week all dungeons. Now that's amazing because this week I'm gonna do all the dungeons. Next week I'm gonna do all the raids. Why not? Let's go, baby. Let's go farming. Like, there's so many ways you could do it, but the reality is, the bottom dollar is let people raid, let people dungeoneer, let people play the game they paid the money for, and let them get the loot that they want. Like, at this point, Bungie really should just let people play the game. Like, there's not a lot of people left. Let the people who are crazy enough to continue to come back to this game, just let it play, have them with the loot.
Raids 1 week and then dungeons the next week. Who cares? Nightfall is a little different.
You just said that, what I said.
Rotation works. It's like the weapon that rotates. Although, like, I know the strike itself also rotates, but that doesn't really have as much of an impact. But you would need the ability to target farm the specific weapon that you're wanting to farm.
Oh, that's really bright. Let's move that.
So Bungie would have to introduce some kind of a thing that allowed you.
Well, they could do easily what Nightfalls used to be, where you would target a very specific Nightfall, and it would give you that specific weapon. Brass Malik. How many of people remember D1? People were farming that strike like hotcakes. And I have that freaking, like, it's called a disgrace now, but that's not really what it was in D1. But essentially, it's the disgraced. Imagine if you, like I said, if they did rollouts or they did targeted farm, even if you wanted to say, okay, first encounters across dungeons, every dungeon, first encounter, farmable. Next week, second encounter, third encounter, whatever you want to say. I think that would still be 10 times a better alternative, because you knew at least this week, within a couple, like 3 weeks, you could get the exact weapon you want and you could farm. Instead of waiting 6 weeks, it's 3 weeks. I mean, I would still like that better than waiting entire 6 weeks to farm. But that's just me.
To do that, you know, easier said than done, I'm sure. Or they'd have to lock weapons to drop from specific strikes. So, Psyops,
they've done that before.
This gun,
it's not like it's impossible.
Drops this gun, etc. You used to be able to pick whatever seasonal Nightfall strike you wanted if you were a Conqueror, but that got nerfed because people figured out that the old Lake of Shadows was an 8-minute speed run and just spammed that to farm whatever week.
Which is like, who cares?
You know, not the absolute healthiest thing in the world for the game. Now that a couple of these easier strikes are getting tweaked, do we really need this?
I really miss the ability to just pick up whatever Nightfall I want for GM.
This limitation anymore. Like, I'm looking at this season's strikes, and I mean, none of them are old Lake of Shadows fast, I'll tell you that much.
And like, who cares? I don't understand. Because let's say you could do a Lake of Shadows in like 5 minutes, 7 minutes. That's like the top end. Not everyone that's playing the game can reach that time limit, that top echelon. Let the people that can farm that at that time, let them farm it. Let the other people farm it the way, like, why is it that a certain small population of like really dedicated players is determining the outcome of the entire game? Like, why? And I'm not saying like, oh, they need to cater to the casuals. I'm just saying in general. Like, for instance, there's a lot of things that like speedrunners do, and then Bungie goes in and nerfs it, even though it's just specifically like speedrunner tech. Like, why? Why? Why are we changing and nerfing and handicapping things just because a certain percentage of gamers can do that? But because they can reach this pinnacle, everyone else has to be punished because of it. And he's right. I would love to be able to choose what GM I want to do. Like, it makes no sense. Let people play how they want to play. It's baffling. Nothing is more annoying than having things on a lockout on a timer. You know what? I get challenges like raids. New raid. You want to do challenges. You want to push it to drag out content. Fine. That's fine. It's new. It's fresh. Fine. I'm okay with that. But when you have things that are 3, 4, 5 years old, why are we still locking it behind rotations? Let people play and farm how they want to farm, bro. Like, we are coming to the end. We don't know whether we truly don't know. Like, we are all speculating. We can have the speculation caps. We don't know if we're going to have any more sagas. We don't know if we're going to Destiny 2 is going to continue on. Heck, we don't even know how the final shape is going to turn out, because it could be the best thing and it could save Destiny. It could be the thing that puts the nail in the coffin, and there may not even be a Destiny 2 anymore, or it could be the death of it, right? We don't know. But what we do know is this is the end of this long saga. Let people play all this old content as much as they want. You should be trying to pull people into the game by saying, all right, caps off, locks off, go for it. Farm, baby. Get ready for the final shape. Go through all the content. Have fun. You know that magical word that most game developers don't understand, except for like Power World and Warframe?
Ways to optimize the strikes, but look, if speedrunners and Giga Chads are doing 10-minute Nightfalls,
exactly,
they're way too good for the game anyway.
Exactly.
Who cares if they get a couple extra wild style grenade launchers. You know,
who's that hurting? It's just because they got a lot more adepts doesn't mean that now they're immediately going to get day one raid belts. Oh God, little Timmy, he's got about 50 wild the wild style grenade launcher. My God, he's going to win the raid first for the final shape. My man. Oh, what's that? The auto rifle from the prophecy. Little Timmy, he's got about 100 of those bad boys. My God, he's got the 5 out of 5 God roll. He's gonna get raid first, or he's gonna dominate in trials. No one can beat him. Like what? Like what limit? Why is there a limitation? It really doesn't make sense.
You're gonna get it anyway. Let's
exactly.
pretend people running 10-minute Nightfalls were, you know, the biggest deal in the world.
There are far worse things in this game to worry about than that.
Who still care about the game the most to learn how to do those things in the first place, you know? Or, I don't know, make it so you can't run the same Nightfall X amount of times in a row. And you got to rotate to a new Nightfall to keep
anything
drops. Something like that. Even if
And honestly, even though it has nothing to do with lockouts, it does have something to do with the rotations, which is what he's saying. Why didn't we get GM refreshes? Like, why are we still playing the same GMs for 6 months? That's insane.
If that's even feasible and not super confusing at all. Nightfalls, dungeons, raids, the weekly rotator just needs to die at this point.
It does.
And Bungie needs to just allow people to farm whatever they want.
Exactly.
They want.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest jump in population since December was Guardian games, not a rotator. Our biggest population jumps during the week are over the weekend. I'm going to assume for trials, but I'm also going to assume it's because people don't work on the weekends. I don't really have the data to back that up. Just,
I would say that's exceptional.
let them
I would say
farm,
that's educational.
Open the gate. If anything, for the last 3 months before final shape as a last hurrah, as a way to prep, as a way to get any.
And I said that too, didn't I? Not necessarily last month, but
or farm things when the people want to.
Exactly.
Waiting for a specific week. Then, if things are changing dramatically enough,
there you go.
Shape, okay, fine. Go back to whatever rotator, I guess. But
sure.
Ideally, either reduce the amount of waiting time between raids and dungeons and nightfall weapons, or get rid of the delay completely. I don't want to plan my life schedule around having to farm a sword, he says, without a shred of irony. Fortunately, Bungie has a great...
He's talking about the slammer, because that's pretty much the only thing I'm waiting on. Like, I've got the incandescent GL, and it's nothing to go talk about. Like, it really isn't. But the slammer looks a little interesting, but, like, it's not like I said, it's not going to get me a day one. So
window coming up for this, and that's their Into the Light content.
Oh, I'm sure that's going to be great.
Coming sometime pretty soon.
Maybe.
If there has ever been a time for this, it would probably be now. But if not now, at least with Into the Light.
Absolutely.
Consider it. How about that? All right, just at least consider it, Bungie. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
And I will definitely, since this is on my gaming PC, I can't just click the link, but it's the videos here. I will put in the actual YouTube video itself, the video, so people who are watching this as a video, please check it out. I will give it a like because I 100% I had to sign in to do it. But I'll do that later. For it on that video. My overall thought is good video, weekly dungeon raid nightfall. All of those rotators, they're stupid. They're pointless. It's very obvious it's old tech used to fluff out the content to make you take longer to play the game. But the reality is people who are going to play the game would have played it already. But people who don't give a crap have either left or will already have left. Right?